It's a great day to be a New York Jets fan, and that's what we're going to talk about in this video. The Jets signed Tyron Smith, former Dallas Cowboys left tackle, to a deal with really only $6.5 million guaranteed, but worth about $20 million overall, 1 year deal. And I promised in the previous Quick Thoughts episode I was going to make a episode solely about the Jets and their potential offseason, and one of those moves was going to be signing Tyron Smith. Definitely was expecting more guaranteed money in this deal. $6.5 billion is nothing. That's probably why the Jets were really in on him. But let's talk about that move. Let's talk about where the Jets are and what the rest of their ideal offseason could look like. So, coming into this offseason, the idea was to protect Aaron Rodgers. And listen, I know he got hurt on the fourth play of the game. That wasn't because of the offensive line's fault. At the end of the day, he was probably going to get hurt anyway. But the offensive line was atrocious throughout the back half of the year. And it's part of the reason, not all of the reason, that Zach Wilson played poorly when he stood in for Aaron Rodgers. Part of the reason is that Zach Wilson was not ready to be in that position. It was not a very good quarterback at this current point in the NFL. That's not to say he can't be in the future, but anyway, that's not the discussion. Neither here nor there. The Jets needed to shore up that offensive line, and they went into an offseason where I thought the only two surefire pieces were Joe Tippmann at center, the rookie from last year, and Elijah Vera Tucker at guard. I'd hoped they played him at guard and tackle, and he'd gotten hurt playing tackle twice, so I'd hope they keep him at right guard, and they're going to. So they brought in John Simpson, former starter for the Baltimore Ravens, who I don't necessarily love, but moving on from Laken Tomlinson and his deal, his big money deal, I think was worth the switch. And I think he can't be much worse than Laken Tomlinson was, especially for the price tag. So, and whatever, I think there's some good depth there. You bring in Tyron Smith the move today to solidify that left tackle spot. So you got Tyron Smith, you got John Simpson at left guard, you got Joe Tippmann, you're bringing him back at center, you got Elijah Vera Tucker, hopefully healthy this year, playing right guard, and then you trade for Morgan Moses from the Baltimore Ravens, giving up a late pick swap that I thought was a fantastic deal. A fantastic deal by GM Joe Douglas. And so you brought in a guy in Morgan Moses who's a very, very good offensive lineman, very, very good right tackle. Brought in a guy in Tyron Smith, when healthy, is an all-pro level left tackle. You have a guy in John Simpson who you hope can be above average at left guard. A guy in Joe Tippmann who in his playtime last year proved to be a pretty good center. And then Elijah Vera Tucker, who I think easily has all-star capability when healthy. Pro Bowl capability, wrong sport, when healthy. So you solidified that offensive line, and I think that was priority number one. Priority number two, you did have holes to fill in the defense. You brought in Javon Kinlaw to help fill in that that defensive tackle spot. You also brought in Lecky Fotu, who I think could play some rotational minutes for them. You let Bryce Huff go, which I was completely fine with. And I mentioned this briefly on yesterday's episode. I think the Eagles paying him might have been a smart decision, but I think the Jets letting him go was really smart. Paying a guy in Bryce Huff $17 million a year when you already have some cap issues, when you already have money that you'd like to spend elsewhere. Would I rather have Bryce Huff or Tyron Smith? It's not even close. Not even close. And so letting Bryce Huff go hurt, but you let Will McDonald, the 15th overall pick from last year, have some more reps. Let Jermaine Johnson, who really stepped up last year, have some more reps. Maybe you play John Franklin Myers a little more on the outside than you have previously, and Javon Kinlaw adding him lets you do that. Maybe they could be better off without Bryce Huff. And even though Bryce Huff is a hell of a pass rusher, he didn't play a whole lot in the Jets defense. So I don't hate losing him. They bring back Chuck Clark to fill one of those safety spots. Currently, the other one's filled by Tony Adams. I have a feeling they're going to sign another safety to play that free safety position. But nonetheless, I feel like the defense is pretty solid. You extended C.J. Mosley. You got your defensive backs kind of locked, or your cornerbacks kind of locked in, and Sauce Gardner and DJ Reed. Obviously, Quinnen Williams is still there. John Franklin Myers is still there. Quincy Williams is still there. You feel good about the defense. Michael Carter Jr. Michael Carter the second, can't forget about him. But back to the offense, I think the third priority was getting another weapon for Aaron Rodgers. And you feel really good about where Garrett Wilson is. You feel like he is if he's not a wide receiver one, he's the highest tier wide receiver two. And I think he's more of a wide receiver one, back end of the wide receiver one category. And then you have Breece Hall at the running back position, who I think is incredibly talented. Aside from that, you say Tyler Conklin's probably an above average tight end. Jeremy Ruckert, I think, showed some flashes in his second year at the tight end position. But other than that, the wide receivers currently on the roster, Allen Lazard, who disappointed last year, Xavier Gibson, an undrafted rookie who really shined in moments, especially in the return game. Week 1 coming to mind where he had the game-winning return against the Buffalo Bills after Aaron Rodgers got hurt. You have Jason Brownlee, similar story with him. I think he showed some flashes given his draft status or lack thereof, should I say. But they need another weapon at the end of the day. And I don't know where that weapon comes, but what adding Tyron Smith does is it lets you have a little more flexibility in the draft. And here's why I say that. First of all, I think signing David Bakhtiari could be an option for them. And if you do that, you have great depth at the offensive line position. You have Bakhtiari who could play kind of that swing tackle. I didn't love signing him to be a starter, but you're not signing him to be a starter here because he can never stay healthy. But having him as an insurance policy, I don't think is bad. You've got guys like Jake Hansen on the roster, guys like Carter Warren, who could sub in at tackle on the roster, Max Mitchell, who I think showed some flashes a couple of years ago. Even guys like Xavier Newman, I think, could end up, being back and playing a role on this team. You feel good about your offensive line depth overall, in my opinion. You probably need a backup center, to back up Joe Tippmann, but that's not the biggest concern. You signed Tyrod Taylor to be the backup quarterback because you needed that desperately last year. But you need another weapon to this. And because that offensive line is so deep, which is what I was saying a second ago, and I got sidetracked by Tyrod Taylor. Because that offensive line is so deep, you don't have to go Tyrese Fuaga with pick 10, who might be at the top of the second tier of offensive linemen, depending on who you ask. You can be a little more flexible and see what weapons are available. Maybe Rome Adunze, wide receiver from Washington, slips to you at pick 10, and you feel good about that. Maybe Brock Bowers, tight end from Georgia. I don't think Malik Neighbors is getting to them, honestly. I think he's probably gone by pick 5. But you have a little more flexibility with that to add a weapon. Maybe if those two guys are gone, maybe you trade back for a guy like Brian Thomas Jr., and then you get some more picks and work something out differently. I don't know. Or you could trade that 10th overall pick, and I think it's far-fetched to assume this is possible, but maybe you trade for a guy like T. Higgins, give that 10th overall pick to Cincinnati Bengals, or maybe you trade for a guy like Brandon Ayuk from the San Francisco 49ers, or maybe you trade for a guy named Justin Jefferson. 10th overall pick, 2nd round pick next year, 3rd round pick next year, 2nd round pick the year after. And you allow Minnesota to do what they did with Justin Jefferson when they traded away Stephon Diggs and they used the pick that they got back to draft Justin Jefferson, his direct replacement. Maybe you let them do that again. Maybe you let them take Rome Adunze 10th overall and replace Justin Jefferson in their offense and have more picks to play with, because I don't think Justin Jefferson is too keen on re-signing him in Minnesota now that Kirk Cousins is not there. Boy, a wide receiver combination of Justin Jefferson and Garrett Wilson would make me drool, man. Oh, that would be glorious. But even Garrett Wilson with Brandon Ayuk, or Garrett Wilson with T. Higgins, or frankly, Garrett Wilson with Rome Adunze or Brock Bowers would make me very excited. If they go with Brock Bowers' route, I could see them signing a guy like Mike Williams to be their wide receiver too, even though he's had some health concerns. At least you got some more weapons in the fold. I think the ideal offseason, Justin Jefferson would be absolutely ideal. I don't think that's possible. Same with T. Higgins and Brandon Ayuk. I don't think that's possible. I think where you sit right now, if they could dream up a scenario, it's signing David Bakhtiari to have some more tackle insurance. It's taking that 10th overall pick, and it's getting Rome Adunze, hoping he falls. I think you feel good about where you are in the draft process and where you are as a team when your offense looks like Aaron Rodgers in the quarterback position, Breece Hall at running back, Garrett Wilson, Rome Adunze, Xavier Gibson. I don't know who the wide receiver 3 is. Tyler Conklin and Jeremy Ruckert at the tight end positions, Tyron Smith at left tackle, John Simpson at left guard, Joe Tippmann at center, Elijah Vera Tucker at right tackle, and right guard rather, and Morgan Moses at right tackle. And then you pull out the defense with, like I mentioned, with all the guys that I just covered who get to the quarterback at a phenomenal rate, and in the defensive backfield who lock up receivers like nothing else. Sauce Gardner might be the best corner in the NFL in today's game. So, and DJ Reed's underrated incredibly. Incredibly underrated is how I should have said that. And Michael Carter II at the slot corner is not too shabby himself. You combine that with solid linebacker play from CJ Mosley and Quincy Williams. And I'm excited for this Jets season, man. If that's the way this offseason shakes out, got to feel good. Adding Tyron Smith and Morgan Moses in the way you did, when I sat here and thought a lot of this was going to be put on the back of Tyrese Fuaga or Olu in this 10th with this 10th pick. The tackle from Oregon State or the tackle from Penn State, they're going to be relied upon to be a starting tackle to protect Aaron Rodgers, either on his blind side at left tackle or in his front side on right tackle. And it's not looking like that's going to be the case. Even if they draft a tackle, which I think there's a small percentage chance they do, given Tyron Smith and Morgan Moses are both free agents after this season. If they draft a tackle, you feel good about letting them wait. But I would not. This is a win now team with Aaron Rodgers nearing the end of his career, potentially running for vice president in the near future. Joking, by the way, he's not running for vice president. But that's the rumor out there, so we got to talk about it. You feel good. You feel good about going in, win now, and adding a guy like Rome Adunze, Justin Jefferson. Make it happen. I'm gonna try to put if I remember, I'm gonna put a jersey swap of Justin Jefferson and a Jets jersey on this portion of the video. Minnesota Vikings fans turn away. Let me know what you think of the Jets offseason. Where do you think they could go from here? Do you think Tyron Smith was a good signing for them? How do you feel about their offensive line and the reshaping of it? I didn't even mention Wes Schweitzer as one of their depth pieces as well at the guard position. Another depth piece in the offensive line. Anyway, let me know what you think in the comments below. Thanks for watching this Quick Thoughts episode. I hope you enjoyed. If there's going to be a mock draft, I should say there's going to be a mock draft episode coming out on Monday, post free agency mock. A lot of shakeups. With I think the Chargers trading away most of their good weapons. They're probably going to lean more wide receiver. Titans getting rid of some of their offensive linemen. They're probably going to lean more tackle. That's really going to shake up the top of the draft. I think it's an interesting conversation. Mock draft coming on Monday. Hit the subscribe button if you haven't already so you don't miss it. Thanks for watching this Quick Thoughts episode. Hope you enjoyed. Peace out.